This is a series of videos in which Philip Maris interviews Dr. John Ricketts, the author of the book Exceeding the Goal: Adventures in Strategy, Information Technology, Computer Software, Technical Services, and Goldrat's Theory of Constraints. In the theory of constraints or constraints management, one often hears there is only one constraint at any one time in an organization. Do you agree with that? In IT environments, is there always only just one constraint, or are there exceptions to that idea?
And that's a fair assumption, because in a given process or project, there's usually just one constraint at a time. However, when you start talking about large enterprises, that is, complex, adaptive organizations, they have many processes and many projects in flight at the same time, so they often have more than one operations constraint. Fortunately, most staff and managers deal with just one constraint at a time, but executives must manage across multiple constraints to resolve conflicts, and that's important for strategic thinking. So here are a few ways that organizations can have more than one constraint. The constraint may rotate. That is, there may be an internal constraint during busy season and an external constraint during the off-season. Ski resorts are a classic example, busy in winter but not in summer. Alternatively, internal constraint can occur during an economic expansion and an external constraint during economic recession. Second way in which organizations can have more than one constraint is there can be geographic differences. That is, demand and competition may vary by market. An example of an internal constraint on production of pickup trucks for the U.S. market contrasts with simultaneously having an external constraint on small cars for the European and Asian markets. Third example concerns capacity versus schedule. It's possible to have not enough workers versus not enough time. Projects may be loosely scheduled but understaffed, or adequately staffed but tightly scheduled, or, heaven forbid, understaffed and aggressively scheduled, the latter being malpractice.
But with your extensive experience of IT, do you think the management usually knows where their constraint is? Are they right about where their constraint is, or are they wrong? Because I've also been applying for decades in manufacturing and physical environments, right? So the way I do it is just look for big physical cues, right? Whether you're producing cars, trains, or rockets, or whatever, it's still the same. That's identified the constraint that's blocking the flow, right? But in the immaterial world of IT, how do you do that when the cues are invisible most of the time? How do you find a constraint?
One hard-learned lesson from constraint management is your constraint probably isn't where you think it is. And when you don't know where your constraint is, it manages you whether you know it or not. Relocating the constraint would be advisable before you start following constraint management steps to improve performance. For instance, within the boundary of one IT project, you'll probably find that its constraint is either skills or time. Commodity skills are readily available on short notice. Core skills are available with a reasonable lead time, but critical skills are chronically in short supply. So multiple projects are probably competing for the same critical skills. If time is the constraint, adding resources can only compress the schedule so much. But if the due date is based on customer demand or internal business events, it may be necessary to reduce scope to fit the schedule or to accommodate resource availability. It's harder to get agreement on IT constraints than manufacturing constraints because an IT organization is like dozens of interdependent factories, each with its own constraint. While it's possible to walk through one factory looking for work in process queued up ahead of what eventually becomes recognized as the constraint, that makes the constraint visible. IT constraints, however, are most often invisible. To find IT constraints, you have to investigate things like project status reports, digital asset inventories, resource hiring and attrition, IT portfolio investments, and so forth. If you turn capacity up or down on a suspected operations constraint, but performance doesn't change, your suspected constraint isn't the real constraint.
I hope that's helped people try and work out where their constraint is and how to find it. As you and I know, it's surprising how often people are wrong about it. And also strange how often it's in the same bad place, such as testing in IT or quality control in manufacturing. Anyway, thanks a lot. In the next video, we'll be talking about, now that we found the constraint, how do we manage it?